Well, the AIDS epidemic in the United States is basically a concentrated epidemic. That means that there are pockets where we have hot spots, but not everyone is affected in the same way. But within those hot spots, we have a generalized epidemic. For example, here in Washington, D.C., we have HIV prevalence, background prevalence of over 3%, and we have a high incidence as well. We have a generalized epidemic in parts of Washington, D.C. Now, among black gay men in America, we definitely have a generalized epidemic where we see incidence as high as 46% and prevalence as high as nearly 50% as well. Black gay men in America might very well be the most vulnerable population on the planet, clearly the most vulnerable population in the developed world, and we have an epidemic among black gay men in America that rivals that of what we see in the developing world, in South Africa, in Botswana, in Zimbabwe, and elsewhere.
Why is it so difficult to approach this part of the epidemic in a black young gay man?
I think that the fact that in the United States we have a large epidemic and we have a complicated epidemic. We have an epidemic where we have to deal with socioeconomic issues, that we have to deal with educational issues, that we have to deal with an uneven health delivery system. The fact that we have over 30 million Americans who don't have health care right now is a contributing factor to the spread of HIV in our communities. The fact that for far too long, some of the easy interventions were prohibited or difficult. Needle syringe exchange programs, for example. Now, we know that syringe exchange programs that have known for a long time that they reduce infection without increasing drug use, and yet there was a prohibition on using public dollars to fund them. And that prohibition has been reinstated. That's a barrier. The fact that we still are doing abstinence-only education in our school system instead of comprehensive education. Now, for our young people to be protected from HIV, they really need to have every resource, every tool at their disposal.
How is it to grow up as a young gay black teenager in the U.S. today?
Well, I don't know how it is to grow up as a young black gay teenager today. It's been a long time since I was a young black gay teenager. What I would say is that, to kind of quote my grandmother, is that we're not where we need to be, but thank God we're not where we used to be. I think it is certainly much easier for a young person to come into his or her own around their sexual orientation, but I do think that many young people experience stigma, and they experience the fear of stigma. And so I think that we need to invest a lot of time and energy in kind of attacking stigma and making sure that we're not marginalizing and discriminating against people.
How do you see the difference between stigma and the fear of stigma?
Well, I think that that some people experience stigma in a real way. Things happen. They go get a job and they don't get it because of their sexual orientation. They seek housing and they don't get it because of their sexual orientation. They're treated differently in the workplace, or they're treated differently by the healthcare provider. That's real stigma. But also people have perceived stigma, or they're afraid of the stigma, so they don't want to take the chance. So for example, people are reluctant to come out to their parents or come out to their family or friends because they're fearful that they might be rejected, when in fact they might not be rejected, and often they're not.
You are a role model. You are open of your sexual orientation and your HIV status, everything. How can you do so that the younger generation also get open-minded?
I think that I'm very, very lucky in that I can come out. I can disclose my sexual orientation to my parents and my family and my friends without repercussion. I can be open about my HIV status without repercussion. Not everybody is so lucky, but because I am lucky, to whom much is given, much is required, I have an obligation to be very vocal and to very vocal about who I am and about my lived experience and about my truth. And if I do that, and if I encourage others who can do that, I think that we make it easier for others who might find it difficult today.
You got your HIV infections 25 years ago. today we're talking about ending AIDS. How important is it to understand the history of HIV and AIDS?
Well, you know, again, the saying, if you don't know where you've been, you certainly can't figure out where you are, and you will not know where you're going or what it will look like when you get there. So the history is very, very important, and it's important for us to tell our stories, for our stories to be documented, and for us to use the lessons we've learned in the past to inform the decisions that we make today.
There is a declaration, DC Declaration. Why should people sign it?
Well, I think it's absolutely important for people to sign the DC Declaration, because it's about our call to arms. It's about this particular period in time, this unique deciding moment. We have an opportunity to do something that we have not ever had in the history of this disease, and quite possibly with any disease. We have the opportunity and the possibility of ending this disease and stopping this epidemic. And the DC Declaration lays out the steps necessary to do that.